Okay, so first up we have occupational performance, and the definition for this is the accomplishment of the selected occupation resulting from the dynamic transaction among the client, the context, and the environment in the activity or occupation. And I just thought it was important to include the definitions for all of the areas, just to refresh myself and for my audience as well. So for occupational performance, I chose the performance pattern of being a student. And so being a student is all I've ever known for the last 21 years. I'm what people would call a perfectionist and a strict type A person in all areas, but especially in school. I strive to perform in the area of academics to the absolute highest level possible. For me, education and being involved in leadership activities and roles means opportunities and open doors. My love for learning, motivation to be a straight A student, and overly driven drive to be involved stems from my family, specifically my parents. They never expected straight A's growing up, they just expected I try my hardest on every assignment. However, I somehow developed this deep sense of pressure that I placed so firmly on myself. I knew from a young age that I was 100% capable of making straight A's and being successful in school. I didn't want to let myself down and get anything less than that. I quickly became my biggest critic, and I still struggle with it today. I honestly believe that this pressure that I unintentionally placed on myself contributed immensely to my anxiety. Being a 3-2 student is another factor of my occupational performance of school. This program is far from easy. There were multiple times where I didn't know if my grades would be high enough to continue moving forward. My performance in school, especially in college, is something that I'm very proud of. My mom didn't get the opportunity to attend a traditional college program. My dad, in contrast, did. This is another reason I think that school and education are so important to me, and in my opinion, education is the one thing that you can never take away from a person. During high school, I was involved in pretty much every club that was offered. I was on the executive council of SGA, held leadership positions in other clubs, and was recognized countless times for my academics. When coming to UAB, nothing really changed. While working on my undergraduate degree, I was a trailblazer and a pathfinder for the university, held executive positions in my sorority, and was involved in various other organizations. And this just goes back to my occupational performance of being overly driven to thrive in school, not only in academics, but as far as involvement in other clubs and organizations goes as well. So, for the section of occupational participation, I wanted to share a hobby or interest, I'm not really sure what you would call it, of an activity that I love participating in. And so, for this section, I wanted to talk about how I love repurposing furniture and going bargain hunting shopping. I'm not entirely sure when or how this specific occupation became one of my all time favorite hobbies. It just sort of happened that way. Uh, so after my grandmother passed away, my grandfather, was left with an empty house and tons of furniture that wasn't being used. When I moved into my first apartment, he so graciously gave me many pieces of the furniture. I decided to flip most of these pieces, such as the kitchen table, and I really enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed the whole process of it. Additionally, I love finding super cheap pieces of furniture, such as this dresser, and giving them an updated paint job as well as adding new fixtures. Not only is this environmentally friendly, but it's also one of my favorite pastimes. I think my love for bargain hunting stems from my Mimi. She would take my sisters and I to the Dollar Tree, Big Lots, Goodies, pretty much any other type of closeout store, and we would spend hours just browsing the aisles and stocking up on treasures. Nowadays, my favorite bargain store is Dirt Cheap. I don't know if you've ever been, but if not, definitely recommend it. I have decorated my entire apartment with treasures that I've found from there. Some people get overwhelmed at the insane mess and lack of organization. I, on the other hand, love it. I can easily spend 4 hours and come out with some of the best finds. You can find me browsing through Dirt Cheap or working on some random DIY furniture project or searching really any other thrift or bargain stores whenever I have the free time. Because this is just some of my all time favorite hobbies that I love participating in. And I did want to make sure that I had the chance to explain the blanket ladder picture. So I think that I love building things, especially building things with my BB, just because that's like how we have bonded over the years, really. And so I found the dimensions for the wood planks and stuff online, and he was able to build it for me. And I stained it myself, and then I found all of the blankets from Dirt Cheap. So it puts both my repurposing furniture as well as love for Dirt Cheap together. So, for the health and well being area of the project, I wanted to highlight, I guess, different areas that represents both. And so I think it's important to first note that the practice framework does have two different definitions for health and well being. And so, for the health aspect of the project, I wanted to just talk about dance and what that meant to me, especially growing up. So, for 16 years of my life, dance was my outlet. It was my stress reliever, a form of physical activity I enjoyed, and a huge motivator in my health. When I got to college, that sort of shifted. I decided to leave my dancing days in the past, even though my mom really wanted me to keep engaging in it. I was just exceptionally burnt out for doing it for so long. But this allowed me to stay physically and mentally healthy for so long. And so I wanted to include that as far as health goes, just because when I did come to college, I didn't have dance to rely on. And so I had to find other ways of like how I was going to stay physically fit, number one, and how I was going to relieve some stress. And like I mentioned before, the practice framework does have a separate definition of well being, and that is a general term encompassing the total universe of human life domains, including physical, mental, and the social aspects. And I think it's just really important just to differentiate between the two. And so I've always been really open about some of my mental health struggles, especially with anxiety and OCD. And so I included a picture of my two cats, Oscar and Ollie, because honestly, as crazy cat lady as it sounds of me, they have definitely helped me in more ways than one manage these two, honestly debilitating at times, conditions. Um, they come up and cuddle with me if I'm having a panic attack. Oscar will come and lay on my chest, and I just think that animals have a sense of understanding when a human is in distress or when they're upset, and my two cats are um, no exception. And then additionally, I feel like I have a good sense of my well being when I'm physically exercising. And so, over the last 4 months, fitness has really played a really big role in not only my health but well being. It is my really and truly my only sense of touch with the outside world, since I'm working 100% from home and doing school from home. This is my time to get out and to socialize, which is a huge part of, for me as an extrovert, a part of my well-being. And so I think this really started with over quarantine, how my just outlook and honestly love for exercise really developed. I don't know if it was because I was just that bored or what it was, but I started multiple home exercises and just really fell in love with the whole process, especially with bar and yoga workouts. And once some of the COVID restrictions were lifted, I ended up getting a gym membership to Planet Fitness. And since then, I've been going about 5 to 6 times a week now for the last couple of months and really enjoy and look forward to going to it, which is something I would have never said before. So, values are acquired beliefs and commitments that are derived from culture and about what is good and right and important to do. So, one thing that I value really, really highly is the time that I get to spend with family and friends. I've seen firsthand that people that mean the most to you aren't in your life forever, and there will come a day when you're unable to pick up the phone and just chat with someone you love. And that day is really difficult. That for me, that came after my Mimi passed away in 2013, and what I valued really changed after that. That was the first immediate family member that had ever died in my life, and it turned my entire world upside down. And so now, at 21 years old, I value family, the time spent with family and friends, pretty much more than anything else, just because I know that's one thing that won't always be here. And the pictures that I chose to include for values were um, our New York City family Christmas trip that we took last Christmas, which was so much fun. When I moved into my apartment with that I share with my sister, UAB's virtual graduation, and just how, although I didn't get to spend it with all of my friends and family, my immediate family made it so incredibly special for me, and a picture of me and some of my best friends. So, spirituality is defined as the aspect of humanity that refers to the way individuals seek and express meaning and purpose in the way they experience their connectedness to the moment, to self, to others, to nature, and to the significant or sacred. And so, my spirituality stems from my strong faith within Christianity. I have always grown up in the church, and there were honestly rarely any time, especially on Sundays, that I ever missed Sunday school or church growing up. For 13 years, me and my family, grew up in a small Southern Baptist church, and in 2011, we switched churches and became members of a large non-denominational church and have been involved in it for the last 9 years. And so the pictures that I included for this part were an Easter picture that I found. Honestly, I think the date is probably 2008. I'm not entirely sure, but one of the earlier Easter pictures. And then this was the more recent Easter we had just a few months ago. And even though it was virtual, we still made it happen. And of course, my mom made us all get dressed up, even though we watched church online and did everything from home. So this is a big part of who I am, and it plays a role into my beliefs, which I'll talk about next. And beliefs are defined as cognitive content that is held as true. And so I firmly believe that my spirituality has a huge role in forming my beliefs. So when we first started attending our new church, I felt the need to get rebaptized. I felt deep within my heart that my love for Christ, myself, and others had completely transformed and had changed. So much so that I wanted and believed it was necessary for me to rededicate my life in a public manner all over again. And I try to be conscious with my beliefs and how and to what extent my spirituality plays within it, because I believe in Christianity. I've grown up as a very active member within the church. I've been on missions trips, attended multiple conferences, engaged in daily Bible readings and prayer time, and like stated earlier, beliefs and spirituality, they in my experience go hand in hand, and my beliefs stem from my spirituality, and what I do is acted and what I believe to be true about the world, about myself. All of that stems from my faith. And so, in the third edition of the OT practice framework, there are four subsections, I guess you could say, of contexts, which are cultural, personal, temporal, and virtual. So, cultural is defined as customs, beliefs, activity patterns, behavioral standards, and expectations accepted by the society in which a client is a member of. So, I wanted to talk about how the cultures of which I grew up in versus where I live now are completely night and day. So, I grew up in Sylacauga, Alabama, and I currently live in Birmingham, Alabama, and they are two completely polar opposite cultures. Sylacauga is a small rural town that lacks diversity and honestly open mindedness. Birmingham, in contrast, is the opposite. And I think it's important for me to reflect on how my views on the world, people, and differences in general have drastically changed since moving away for the better, I'll say. And it's hard at times to admit that I was wrong in areas and even held on to some unconscious bias and microaggressions that I weren't aware of. And so I am able to, reflect on that and look at how much I have truly grown as a person just because of the changes in the cultural environment in which I am a part of. So, as far as personal goes, I included my age, which I am 21 years old. I identify as a cisgender female. Growing up, my family and I fluctuated between lower and middle class in terms of socioeconomic status. I received my Bachelor of Science degree in Healthcare Management from UAB this past August. I am a huge Blazer fan through and through and love all of the friends and memories that I've made on this campus. I'm an alumna of Alpha Gamma Delta sorority and it contributes majorly to the friendships and memories that I've made while at UAB. The temporal context is defined as experience of time as shaped by engagement in occupations, the temporal aspect of occupations that contribute to the pattern of daily occupations. And so I kind of struggled to understand, I guess, what I could do for this one. But one that came to mind is how food and spending time with people over food could be for me a great example of this in my daily occupations. So, food and spending time with people over meals is a temporal context factor that has played a role in shaping my engagement with food. Growing up, and even still today, food was how my family was brought together. My nanny always fixed a traditional Southern lunch every Sunday, and we would all eat and then just spend time with each other, just chit chatting about life. And this has shaped how I enjoy engaging in food. I love to cook and prepare meals for my friends. Food and eating brings us all together. Anytime you want to bring a group of people together, have food involved because chances are they're going to come for that. There's nothing I love more than fixing a big pot of chili and sharing it with my friends. I love hosting people and cooking for others, and this is all shaped by how food has played such a temporal and important role in my family. And the last context area was virtual. And I mean, this is pretty self explanatory and more prevalent in my life than ever in my 21 years of living, ever before. If you would have told me a year ago that I would be doing OT school and working 100% from home, I would have literally laughed in your face. Um, this is my and pretty much everyone else's reality at the moment. When quarantine first began, I think the majority of people, including myself, thought that it would only be, maybe 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks turned into 2 months, and here we are 8 months into this new reality. And at first, I didn't really make my virtual learning area anything special. I have a desk in my room, and that's where I did a majority of my work at first. However, I finally bought a new office style chair, which helps so much with long periods of studying and whatnot, a laptop stand, and transform the kitchen table into my new home office. And it's been an adjustment for sure, and I just really can't wait to be back in person full time. And this concludes my introspective project. I had fun finding all of the pictures and strolling through memory lane, and I hope you enjoyed watching it.